Hello. What I would like to show you today is how to make your Google Forms a little bit more dynamic. So in the examples that I have here, I have a form where I want to ask the users to fill in their availability request for work over the next 7 days, right? So you can see I have, it's just a simple form. I started from a blank form. I created two questions. One is the name of the user, and the second is a checkbox grid where the user would be able to tell us when he or she is available with the actual date of the calendar date and whether it's available or she's available in the morning or in the afternoon. So what I will do is I will show you how to update these columns, because these are the ones that we want to update in two different ways. So the first way would be by using a spreadsheet as a sort of a proxy, where we'll have some data in the spreadsheet and we'll import and update the data of these columns via a script. The second way will be to actually build to actually write a script at the back of this form and update this data automatically. So let's start with the first method, so using a spreadsheet. So I just created a new spreadsheet that is not linked at all to that form. I started from a blank spreadsheet and I just typed the dates in here that I will want to have. And I use the function today and I just add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the subsequent rows. So I don't need a blank row actually, so I'll just delete this one. The first thing that we will do, we'll open our script editor. I will rename the project a update dates and my function update dates. I'll just start by creating a variable referencing to the spreadsheet that we're working in and the sheet, and I'll define the range where these dates are. So if you do not know how to do this, you can watch some of my first videos where I explain this a little bit more in details, but I'll go through quickly in that case. So that's the variable for the spreadsheet. Open by ID. My ID is in the URL between the D and edit generally. Now I'll create a variable referencing to the data sheet. That would be in the spreadsheet. I need to get the sheet by name, and my sheet is called sheet 1. Now I need to define where my dates are, and we saw that the dates are in the range A1 to A7. So that would be in data sheet dot get range. So we're starting from A1, so row 1, column 1. We have 7 rows, right? So from 1 to 7 and only one column. And I need to get the values in this range. Okay, so we'll basically create an array with all the dates that we want to update. The second thing I need to do is declare reference the form that we will want to update. So I'll just create a first variable called form. And just like I did with the spreadsheet variable, I will open it by ID, but instead of spreadsheet app, I will use form app that's open by ID. The ID is also in the URL between D and edit, just like in the spreadsheet case. Okay. And the next things I want to do is to see all the different items that are in my form, right? So you can see I have 2 questions, so I expect that I will see 2 items, but let's just give it a go. Call them items, and that would be in form. I think it should be in get items. Okay, let's just log that and see what we get. You can say I have 2 items, so that's fine. And we are looking at the second item because the first one is the name and the second one should be this question, right? So in what I want to find out is what is the ID of the second item, right? Because what we'll do next, and I'll just comment it afterwards, but I will want to reference this item. So that would be form get item by ID. And here I need to get this ID number, right? So in order to get the ID number, we will we know that we have 2 items, and we know that the item that we want is the second one, right? But we also stored the items in an array, and we know that the first position in an array is 0. So we want to get the item that's in position 1, and I will get ID here. So I will log that, and I'll be able to get the ID. Let's see what we get. Okay, I have an ID, but you can see that it's probably quite a long number, so it's been shortened. In order to get the actual number, I will need to get ID and to string. That should fix it, hopefully. Let's see. Okay, so you can see that now I have the actual ID number. So I just copy this number. I will paste it here. I can remove that now, and I can uncomment it. Okay, so I found exactly the item that I want to update now. So what I need to do next is to set it up, or to update the data in this data here using the dates that we've already stored in variable. So I will need to start by item. So that's the item that we want to update. And as a checkbox grid item, that's the type of questions that we set. And that's what we want to update. And I will have to set columns. That's what we want to update, right? That's these columns that we want to change. And in columns, I just have to type dates. And let's see, let's just save this and see what happens now. Okay, so you can see that this field has been updated with the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dates. So that's exactly what I wanted to do. The only thing that will happen is that once we get the data from the spreadsheet, this number also needs to change according to the day when we're visiting the form, right? So it should change every day. The problem that we have, and I covered that in my previous video where I show how to recalculate formulas, is that if you were to extract the data from the spreadsheet using the script and update it in the form, that will not recalculate the data. So there is a little bit of a trick, and I explained that in the previous video, but you just need to use another cell to change a value. So what I generally do, I just add the date when it was last changed in another cell outside of the range, right? So let's just do this. So I will go back to my script, and I will just do this here. So in my data sheet, I will get range, and I will update the cell C1. To be honest, I'm not sure whether it's the best way to do this, but it's been working well for me so far. So I'll just continue to use it. And then I will set the value for this cell, and I will set it to a date, okay, which will give me the current date. So just save it and see what happens. Okay, that shows the date from today. And here it's also been, or it will be updated every time you run the scripts, okay? So that's the first thing we did. So that's using the spreadsheet method. The last thing we want to do, because we want to run this script on a daily basis in order for the form to be refreshed every day with the correct data for the next 7 days, is to just set a trigger that will be that means that the script will be triggered on a daily basis. So I just click on Edit, Current Project Triggers. I just create a new trigger. So we will run our function update dates, and the event source will be time driven. And I want to run it on a daily basis, okay? And it will be run between midnight and 1 a.m. So I'll just click OK. I save this. And now if everything goes well, the script should run every day between midnight and 1, meaning that the dates will be updated here thanks to our recalculation of the formulas, and the dates will be updated here as well, okay? So that's the first method, how to update these fields. Now I will try to come to a method that's a little bit faster, and that's by building a script at the back of the form. So if you just click here on More and Script, so we open the script editor. I will rename my project Update Dates. I'll just rename my function Update Dates as well. So I will just declare a variable called form, and that will be form up, and we are the back of that form, so I'll just use get active form. I need to also declare the item we'll be modifying, just like we did before. So I'll just go back in my other script, and we used this one. So form get item by ID, so we'll use the same one. Okay. I will now create an array of a blank array where I will want to store the new dates that we will want to update. That will use this array to store the dates that will go into that second question here. Okay, so array equal and blank array. What I want to do now is to create a loop to store the 7 days, right? So from today and the next 6 days, I want to calculate that to store it into that array to be able to then update the question. So I'll just do for, we'll initialize it at 0, and I should be lower than 7, because we're going for 7 days, and I++. If you want to know more about the loops, you can see the video that we did about the for loops, and I will explain a little bit more in details how this for loop works. For now, we'll set a new date, a new variable called date, and this variable will be equal to new date, which is today's date, okay? But the second time the loop is running, I want this date to increment by 1, basically. So I need to do date dot set date. So we'll just do date dot get date, and we'll have plus I. And that way, the second time the loop is running, we'll have incremented our the value that is in date, which is in the date format. That's why I had to use date got date by 1. Okay. So what I need to do next is to push this date into the new date array. So I'll just type the name of the array dot push, and the element that we want to push is the date. Okay, so let's just have a look at what happens. We'll just log the new dates to see what's in there. Oops. Okay, just run it. Just need to grant the authorization, so just follow the screens. Okay, let's see what's in the log. And you can see that I have the 7 days. So I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So once I have this, I can use the same methods that we used before to update the question. Okay, so I would need to type item dot as checkbox grid dot set columns, and I change columns by new dates. Okay. Let's see what happens. So I will just delete them to see what's going on. Just leave one. Just run it. And you can see that it's been updated. Okay, so that's working fine. One thing that I do not really like is the format. Okay, so you can see that it's not really user-friendly. Probably doesn't look very good if I look at the preview. Yeah, and it's not very nice. So I wanna make sure that the format that I show is a little bit shorter, and I don't need the time. I don't necessarily need different things. So I will show you how to update the format of this date now. So let's go back to our script. So essentially what we need to do is we need to force the script to interpret the values that are in date as a string and not as a date. Otherwise, we'll keep having the same problem, and the data will always come back looking like this. So I will use a function called utilities.formatDate that will help me to format it as we really want, actually. So what we'll do is we'll just date equal utilities dot format date, and you can see that we need to have our date first, then the time zone, and then the format. But in fact, we need to have this before we push the date. So I'll just copy this and put it just above the push. So we format our date. So the date that we want to format is date, the time zone. So I am in GMT +8. You can just decide what you want. And in format, I will decide what format I want. So let's say I will want my months. So I'll have to type 3M, so that give me the months in letters. I want to know the calendar day as well. I want to know the year. And lastly, I will want to know the weekday. So in order to get this, I'll just put it between parentheses because that's what the format I would want it to look like. And I'll just type E, and that will give me the weekday using the three letter format. So let's see what happens now. I'll just save it. I'll run my script. And you can see that the values have changed now to a format that is actually much nicer. I think it's much easier to read. So let's just have a look. But you can see that it's a lot easier to fill for the user now. Okay, so basically the last thing I'm left to do is to set a trigger as well for the script that we have at the back of the form to run every day, just like we did for the other script that we had at the back of the spreadsheet. So I'll just go into Edit, Current Project Triggers. I just add a new trigger. I want to run update dates. It will be time driven and it will be every day between midnight and 1 GMT plus 8. Okay, I click save and that's it. So in this video, I basically showed you how to update dynamically a field in a Google form via two methods. The first one, if you recall, was by using a spreadsheet. So we typed in some data in here. We used a script that helped us to recalculate the formulas first and then update the values in these columns. And the second method that we used was by writing a script directly at the back of the Google form. So we created that script that automatically calculates the dates that we want to have, the next 7 dates. So I could also change the value from 7 to, I don't know, 10 or whatever I want. We also used the format date function to format the look of the date. So it's a little bit easier for the user to read. We push that in an array and then we updated the values in here. Okay, so I hope that it's useful for you. And if you like what you saw, just subscribe and you'll be notified about our next videos. Thank you.